Good evening. I call to order the business meeting of the Cave Creek Unified School District Number 93 Governing Board. It's Monday, November 14th, 2022, and it's 6 o'clock. Item 1.2, roll call. All 5 board members are present, and there is a quorum. Present from the cabinet are Dr. Monroe, Dr. Jensen, Dr. Hendrickson, Ms. Rodriguez, and Mrs. Scott. Item 1.3, formal adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
We'd like to pull item 4.13 out of action consent, please.
Oh, and I'd like to pull out 4.12.
Okay, so a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The agenda has been adopted as amended. Item 1.4, call to fill out forms for call to the public. We do have some, so an admonition will be read. Item 1.5, Pledge of Allegiance. Miss Piper Schwartz, a 6th grader from Desert Sun Academy, will lead us in the pledge. Whenever. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Piper. Item 1.6, President's Report. I'm assuming Dr. Monroe is going to recognize all the great things that are happening around our district, so my report is going to be a little different. First, I'd like to acknowledge the life, service, and death of a former board member, Susan Clancy. She was a parent in our district, a board member, and also Cave Creek Councilwoman, and I extend my condolences to her family. The elections, it appears that, they're still counting everything, that Member Brown and Jackie Ulmer will sit on the new board beginning January 2023. And the override. Feeling disheartened doesn't begin to express the feelings that I and many others have surrounding the failure of the override. Those of us who have worked under these conditions understand the importance of securing income from bonds and override. It's a business decision. Students, staff, and administration have options right on our borders. Deer Valley, Paradise Valley, and Scottsdale all have overrides in place or have just voted to renew their existing overrides. Sadly, going out for overrides is a necessary evil in a state that doesn't properly fund its public schools. In our district, we have very high property values, very low taxes, and seem to be unwilling to fund our students and staff. We are indeed the poor little rich district. Having stated the reality under which we find ourselves today, I'm greatly appreciative to the PAC, who were so dedicated in their efforts to pass the override. Their signage was within the parameters of state statute. Their finances are in proper order. Their message was factual, and it was nonpartisan, which is what school board-related elections are intended to be. Our business owners supported the override despite members of the public encouraging the boycotting of their businesses, and I'm deeply grateful to them. Members of the Carefree Council, along with the Chamber of Commerce president and other commerce members, supported the override, and I thank them as well. Our administration, teachers, staff meetings, students, and parents who worked for passage of the override, thank you. My heartfelt apologies go out to our teachers, our staff, and our students. I'm so sorry this didn't pass because I know it is you who will bear the burden. Going forward, in order to preserve the CCUSD and to keep it from failure or being subsumed by another district, let's put politics aside if that was a factor and think about who it is we serve, the students. Let's work together to effect legislative change so that our schools don't have the need for overrides. We can accomplish far more for our students and staff if we work together to problem solve. Unfortunately, taxes are a necessary component to funding the infrastructure of a nation, and education is a societal infrastructure. We can think and say we support public schools, but our actions must match our words. Thank you. 1.7, board comments. Board.
Thank you, Beth. It's same. We'll just say same when it comes to the override. Positive. I did see, I know in a future 4.7 enrollment is actually up for the first month from the previous month. So congrats to the district on that. And a lot besides elections and overrides have been going on. I did get to attend many of the homecoming events that were on campus. So it's fun to see the energy there with the students. Cheers to Miss Barella on all of that. And everybody else that supports her. I got to attend the Fall Festival at STMS, which is a lot of fun as well. And then also the trunk or treat for Black Mountain. So there was lots of sugar for a couple of weeks in October there. Transportation department actually outdid themselves on the trunk or treat. They decorated a whole bus. So it was definitely a fan favorite. That's it for now.
I was able to attend the last two varsity football games, the homecoming game and then senior night. Senior night's always a special night for all of our students and their parents to get that walk across the field. It's something that I remember doing with my two kids, and it is special. Also attended the Fall Festival at Sonoran Trails. It was a great event. The PTO and the parents out there did a fantastic job with tons of kids. We're having lots of fun. Halloween Monday, the Storybook Parade at Lone Mountain, which is always a fun event to see the kids dressed up and holding the books that matches their costumes. That was great. I was able to go to the first round of the high school girls volleyball playoffs, which they won and moved on to the second round, Then one other note, our Cave Creek youth football, our 12-year-old team, which is made up mostly sixth graders from our schools, they are going to the championship game this upcoming Saturday for Division III here in the Phoenix metropolitan area. So we're all excited that we have a chance to maybe bring home some hardware Saturday afternoon. So good luck to all those students and volunteer coaches that make that possible. And then on a sad note that Member Hatcher has already mentioned, we lost a fantastic person a couple of weeks ago in Susan Clancy. And I honor her tonight with her picture and a small bouquet of roses. I was lucky enough to meet her about 12 years ago, and I was fortunate enough to be able to call her a friend. Susan served 16 years on the Cave Creek Governing Board, and as well as serving on Cave Creek Town Council and other committees and events, and she's just a wonderful person. My condolences to her family. She will definitely be missed in the community.
I also attended the Fall Festival at Sonoran Trails. Thank you to PTO for all of the work that went into that, because I know that is a lot of work. And thank you to the teachers who volunteered their evening to supervise. I also attended the last Cactus Shadows football game at Desert Mountain, and it was very cold. Unfortunately, it didn't have a super positive outcome, but I was there. And also my condolences to the Clancy family. When I first was on the school board, Susan was a member, and it was a pleasure to work with her on the school board, to listen to her insights, and as I said, my condolences to her family.
Yeah, I'll just, I have a few things that I wanted to add here, particularly about the override. And just we're going to go over some notes here. That it looks like about 16 14 of 16 districts did pass their overrides this time. We did not. We lost by over 6,000 votes. I'm not exactly sure anymore what to say about this community that keeps doing this to its district. Whether it's indifference or listening to the social media attacks or just this unrelenting desire not to pay a penny more for taxes that are here to support our students. Again, a reminder, highest property values in the state, lowest tax rate in the state. But we don't want to spend the $4 to $10 a month that will help our community. Excuse me. Getting over a flu here. But, sorry about that. I'll try to cover it. So anyhow, it's really more than that. There's a level of apathy, or that somebody else is going to do it, so I don't have to, that seems to be killing our chances here. Like a lot of teachers, I have 2 jobs, and one of those jobs was actually out, being able to try and get pro-public education people elected to office. And so I've been knocking on doors all over the place. And wherever I've gone, I have seen teachers and school board members out knocking on doors, bringing things about the override. In Deer Valley, they didn't have an override or a bond this time, but they were out there talking about the community. In Paradise Valley, saw the school board candidates, saw them bringing out their message every weekend, sometimes Saturdays and Sundays. Scottsdale, same thing. Washington, same thing. And we just didn't see it here. That's not what happened here. The voters didn't get talked to, again. And if we're going to do anything different, if we're going to have anything that looks like a future for this district, we have to rethink how we're doing this. There were 2 canvases here. I went to one of them, and there were no teachers there. I know you're busy. I know you're stretched as thinly as possible, but it sends a message. And if we're going to do what we need to do for this district, we all have to do it. And if we're not willing to do it, then we should not be too surprised by these results. We have to do things different, or we have to stop trying, because it's really embarrassing. I hope that we can stop doing where too little people are doing too little to do something to override the naysayers of this district. Like President Hatcher said, those of you that did give the effort, and I saw a bunch of you there, appreciate you coming out and doing it, but I don't know what the future holds. We have to work smarter in order to get people to vote to support this district, and that's all there is to it. Thanks for your time.
Okay, 1.8, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Monroe.
President Hatcher, members of the board, I'd like to offer my thoughts and prayers to the friends and family of Susan Clancy regarding her passing this last week. Regardless of whether we align with board members or not, they have volunteered to campaign and run for office and serve for 4 years when half of the people love you and half of the people don't love you. And so she served this community in that capacity. I'd also like to offer my apologies to the board and the community on the failed override. I accept that. I own that. I know it's bigger than I am, and I know that I could have done more personally. When we lose the election by 58% to 42%, that's pretty telling. That's not even close, folks. And we are the largest school district in Maricopa County that doesn't have local funding from our families to support education. So this has been a very hard week. And I appreciate our leaders, our teachers, the PAC, the board members who were involved supporting the override. I thank all of them for their efforts and their hard work. So enough said about that. I'd like to do some happy updates because there's wonderful things happening in our school district. And hopefully this malaise will pass. I know there's a lot of different emotions of mourning and anger and disbelief and embarrassment for people and families who live in this community. Regardless, there's wonderful things happening for our students in our school district. We just concluded our fall sports season. We had great success for our fall sports, our boys and girls cross country at the high school. Our girls golf were state champions again. This is their 8th time, folks, being state champions. Our boys golf team, swim and dive, volleyball and football. I want to congratulate all our student athletes who did an amazing job this season. I'd also like to congratulate our cheer on their first competition of the year. Varsity and JV went to Hamilton. For their competition, varsity was first place honors and JV brought home second place. I'd also like to congratulate our POM team. They participated in a brand new competition at the new Legacy Sports Complex in Mesa. Some of the best teams in the state were there, and guess what place our Pommies ended up as? First place honors for their game day and their hip hop routines. It's pretty special. Last week, I was able to be in attendance at our high school where we had 8 of our seniors, Falcon athletes, who celebrated their signing day where they're going to play at the next level. For the early signing period, Caleb Neiman is going to play baseball at Central Arizona College. Quinn Myers-Lenz, she'll play softball at the University of Northern Colorado. Cameron Gabadlo, she'll be playing volleyball at the University of Utah, and you should see her jump through the roof when she hits the ball. Derek Schaefer is going to Tennessee to play baseball. Kira Heichel is going to Nichols State to play volleyball. Sierra Labouie is playing basketball at Wisconsin. And Jordan Diamond is playing softball at Charleston Southern. And finally, Paige Hammerstrom, she's going to Belmont University to play golf. So we were really happy to celebrate the hard work of these student athletes as well as the support from their family. In October, we had one team day on a Saturday morning at Falcon Field. The purpose of this event is to bring together our football program, our cheer, and our POM athletes with our exceptional students in the district. So each VIP athlete was provided a game day jersey, and they partnered with a peer mentor. The final activity was the touchdown run, where our VIP athletes had an opportunity to score a touchdown. It was really an amazing and emotional morning and a great event. This last week, we had Veterans Day celebrations around Cave Creek. It's something we honor and celebrate by making cards, having choir performances, writing essays, having other activities associated with that day for students. As you know, Black Mountain Elementary held their annual Veterans Day Walk of Honor, where veterans were invited to walk along the inner path at Black Mountain while being honored for their service by students and staff. Our choir is having a stellar year. Our Cave Creek Unified School District Choir, they sang the national anthem at the September 23rd Cactus Shadows High School varsity football game. This was also our senior appreciation night. What that means is we invited residents in the community over the age of 55 were welcome to attend the game free of charge. They had VIP seating. They had a complimentary meal that they could also eat for the game. We'd like to congratulate Mrs. Karen Dolezal and our Vivace Honors Choir from the high school. They received a superior rating with distinction from the Arizona Choral Educators High School Fall Choral Festival in October. And they beat out programs from Gilbert, Chandler, and Paradise Valley. These are larger programs, so we flexed our muscles on them. Not that I'm competitive. We also celebrated our Bus Driver Appreciation Week, our School Bus Safety Week, in a big way this year. We went big. Our schools made banners and thank you cards. I rode a bus at 6 a.m. When it was dark, which was wonderful. I think I said hi to all the high schoolers, and they were half asleep. They didn't even notice me there. President Hatcher came one morning and brought donuts to the staff. We appreciate Danny Moore, our Director of Transportation, Shannon Quinn, our Director of Child Nutrition. They arranged a barbecue for our drivers, and so I was able to help them roll hot dogs and flip burgers for our drivers to show appreciation. One of the bus drivers emailed me and said, "I just want to shoot you a quick note, Dr. Monroe, to say thank you. This year's Appreciation Week has been unprecedented. I've never seen such an outpouring of collective gratitude. It makes my heart so happy. I already love my job dearly, but this week has been extremely special." And I'd like to congratulate some students from Horseshoe Trails, Addison, I think it's Ida, and Leaf. Mr. Petnato, hopefully I got that right, for their singing On Top of the World. the video, it was released by the One Voice Children's Choir on YouTube. So to become part of the One Voice International, each of these singers had to submit videos in August with their parent permission after learning the song's arrangement, and the video was released on October 23rd. It has over 75,000 views. So check it out, the One Voice International, and stay tuned for a video opportunity for 23. And lastly, the thing I'm most proud of is I get to sit next to Piper, who's on my left here. She is one of our student leaders. She's a 6th grader from Desert Sun Academy, and she's been selected as our student leader for this board meeting. So can we give her a round of applause?
My name is Piper Schwartz. I'm in the 6th grade and I go to Desert Sun Academy. I moved here from Washington State in July. I'm the youngest. I have 2 adult brothers. I love gymnastics and I'm a horse girl. I've had a horse since I was 7 years old. I love Desert Sun Academy. The staff and teachers are awesome and help us students a lot. When I first came to Desert Sun Academy, I liked how easy it was for me to feel welcomed. Overall, I'm super excited to go to Sonoran Trails because I want to meet the nice staff and have different classes.
So, President Hatcher, members of the board, Piper represents all the great things about our district and why each one of us in this room love Cave Creek Unified. And so, Piper, we are really proud of you. Thank you for being the student. We all want to be like you when we grow up. So, and President Hatcher, that's my board report.
Thank you. Number 2, call to the public. So we do have some sheets, so I'll read the admonition. According to ARS 38-431.01H, governing board members may not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public. The only allowable responses a governing board member may make are: number 1, board member may respond if there is a direct criticism of the board member; 2, board member may direct staff to look into a matter; or 3, board member can ask to have this item placed on a future agenda. Speakers need to be mindful of what they say when presenting to the board. Inappropriate comments could be considered slanderous. So, the first speaker, and this is 3 minutes each, except some of you have additional minutes, and I'll let you know. The first speaker is Laura Hemming. 3 minutes.
Good evening, school board members and Dr. Monroe. Our team strives to support students, parents, and teachers to make great things happen for kids. This is on the school district's homepage for the Special Education Services Department. I can tell you great things were happening this year, but the administration is trying to change a major milestone for the special needs kids. My daughter, Sierra Hemming, is currently a senior at Cactus Shadows High School in the Self-Contained Special Needs Program, or Life Skills Program. It has been a long-standing practice going back 20-plus years that if the IEP team determines it would be beneficial for a senior special needs student to return for an additional semester or maybe year as a super senior, that student still is able to walk at graduation with their peers as if they were graduating on time. These are the students that they have grown up with, their peers, their cohorts, their friends. Principal Barella and Special Education Director Karpinski are stating that it is school board policy, approved in May of 2021, that students must have all credits needed to graduate in order to walk in the graduation ceremony. This is being used as a blanket policy, which includes not only the general education students, but also the special needs students. They have finally agreed to let this year's seniors walk, which I'm very thankful for, but they will not let next seniors walk in the graduation ceremony in name of enforcing school policy. I believe that perhaps the board may have just approved the entire policy manual as a whole, not realizing the 20-year tradition that Cactus Shadows has of inclusiveness during the graduation ceremony. You may wonder why students need to come back as super seniors. Well, this school district is the only school district that doesn't have an after graduation transition program for special education students. The other districts don't need to withhold credits from the students because they are able to just move into the transition program for another 3 years. At Cactus Shadows High School, We don't have this, which is why we withhold a credit and let them return. I am here to request that the school board rewrite the policy with wording that allows for special needs students to walk in the graduation ceremony during their normal senior year if they have not achieved the 22 credits required for graduation. This would, of course, be based on the decision of their IEP team to have that student return as a super senior. Please help to continue the Cactus Shadows wonderfully inclusive environment. Let's make great things happen for our kids. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, Beth. President Hatcher. Okay. I would like to place that on as a future agenda item to have an amendment for the special education in regards to that policy. Thank you.
Noted. Next speaker, Lynn Prem. Sorry. 3 minutes.
Good evening. As an ESS parent, we are used to everything being difficult, to having to fight for each thing, to nothing being easy, literally ever. But to not have any options or to have things taken away that don't matter just makes no sense. Apparently in May of 2021, the language for who can walk at graduation was changed in the board manual, and now the kids who need a super senior year can't walk with their peers at graduation any longer. Please realize this is our kids' senior night. They will never get that any other way. I would like it, if possible, to it be separated out from general ed. If the board could address this, it would be much appreciated, as it seems like it was unintentional. However, I have watched the special education department, at least at the high school, get completely decimated in a very short time. Before moving here, I looked at the district and the department, and many, many things, positions, programming is gone. There is no longer an adult transition program, and now there isn't even special ed science or social studies at the high school level. I understand the district wants to focus on the smart kids, on the gifted kids. I get it. It's what gives us the A rating. But how can you, in good conscience, leave the most vulnerable behind? For example, my daughter, in order to graduate, is in a regular zoology class. It is literally taking a team of 4 teachers and her parents just to get her through that one class. She understands about 25% of what is presented. I am sure you would agree, this is not the correct programming for her. Many kids end up staying as super seniors because they are not ready, prepared, and now, after high school, in our district only, there is nothing and nowhere for them to go. We are the only district without an adult transition program. We are too far from Project Search to make it a viable option, and we don't even have public transportation available. Most of them can't drive, and almost all of us are over the income level where we would be provided transportation by the state. My option for my child is essentially to quit my job so that I can drive her twice a day to Glendale and pick her up. Or I can take out a second job so that I can afford $120 round trip a day for Uber. That is not realistic, and it's not fair. The teachers have their hands tied behind their back. They have no funding. They have no programs. They do everything they can and go above and beyond, but there is only so much they can do without help from the school district. So to the board, I ask for your assistance, please. Please help us to come up with a plan for the most vulnerable in our society. Please help them be all they can be. They are capable, but they need help after high school, and right now, there is no easy way for them to get it. I'm asking you to look into reinstating the adult 18 to 22 year transition program to help us create a Project Search or to help get a partnership with a neighboring district into their program. I understand now more than ever funding is an issue. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
So, can those components be added to the, can those components, transportation, science, social studies, adult transition, be added?
Okay, gotcha.
The next speaker, Gracie Goulder, 3 minutes.
All right. I would also like to address graduation. Our governing board policy states that students may not participate in the commencement exercises unless they have successfully completed the requirements for graduation. We are one of the few districts that does not have anything outlined for special education students in the graduation section of our governing board policy. Many neighboring districts give out a certificate of completion to their special education students after 4 years. And then once the students return and meet all credit requirements, they're able to receive a diploma. Some of the districts that are allowing their students to walk and then return are Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, Peoria, Glendale Union, Phoenix Union, Alhambra, Maricopa Unified, Marana, and many more. This certificate allows students who have busted their tails for 12 years to have the opportunity to walk across stage with their cohorts. They get to enjoy graduation with their peers and celebrate all their hard work and accomplishments with the students that they've been going to school with for years. I'm not sure why our policies recently changed or been brought to light, but as a teacher and a former student of our district, I know that this has not always been the case. In the past, we've always allowed our students on an IEP to walk across with their cohort. In fact, it was one of my favorite memories of high school and a big reason why I'm a teacher today. Why change this now? Our district wants to be more inclusive, but not allowing some of our special education students to walk with their peers doesn't seem to support this. The only reason these students are not graduating on time is because it's an IEP team decision. The IEP team determines that the student's disability was such that more than 4 years of educational services were required to ensure that that student was receiving a free, appropriate public education, designed to meet the their individual needs and prepare them for their future education, employment, or independent living skills. These students aren't failing their classes. They're staying longer to further their education because maybe they take a little more time or they learn differently than their peers. To be punished for this would be cruel and against everything we stand for as a district. I really hope that you all will reconsider or will consider revising the policy to reflect what's in the best interest of our special education students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Corinne Kautzman. And, okay. Luke is yielding his time to you, so you have 6 minutes. Okay. All right. You have a cushion.
Good evening, President Hatcher and fellow governing board members. My name is Corinne Kautzman. I am a proud product of CCUSD. I went to Cave Creek Elementary, Black Mountain Elementary, Desert Arroyo, and finally graduated from Cactus Shadows in 1996. My husband and I both chose to move back to Cave Creek because of the education we received and the dedication of the teachers within CCUSD. We have 2 students, a 4th grader and a freshman at Cactus Shadows. My freshman, Austin, successfully started GSA last year at Sonoran Trails as a student-led organization to support LGBTQ students and their allies. Again, this year, when Austin entered Cactus Shadows, they started a GSA, not without headwinds. Currently, they're sponsored by Mrs. Kelly Love, the Sonoran Trails counselor. This is because no faculty at Cactus Shadows, I'm sure because of low morale and pay, was willing to step up. This student-led organization meets at 6 a.m. in the morning so that Mrs. Love can make it to the junior high before her start time. They pretty much meet in a coat closet. They don't have an overhead projector. They don't even have enough seating. But my student and her fellow LGBTQ classmates do not complain. They are not given the same respect as other clubs that are on campus. This past Thursday, my husband and I attended the Sparkle Glitter Glisten Arizona fundraiser. Austin is a part of Glisten Arizona's Shine Team, which is their teen leadership program. During the evening, Mrs. Kelly Love was awarded Educator of the Year. Mrs. Love deserves more than just an award for her time and her dedication that she puts towards these students, or her kids as she likes to call them. CCUSD is beyond lucky to have Mrs. Love. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we have Danny and Marla are speaking together, and you have 15 minutes because you've got 5 people attached to you.
Good evening, Governing Board. I am Marla Riney.
I am Danny Piacquadio. We are representing Action for Students, the nonpartisan political action committee who worked so hard in support of the recent override.
As co-chairs, we're here to express our condolences to the board who unanimously approved the override, to Dr. Monroe and Marcy Rodriguez, and the other district staff who dedicated hours upon hours of their personal time, to the volunteers, donors, and supporters who saw value in these efforts, to the CCUSD students and families who deserve a well-funded and well-rounded educational experience. But most of all, to the teachers and staff. For once again, our community has denied you the basic support that every district employee deserves for their passion and dedication to educate our children of today and our leaders of tomorrow. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Action for Students know we did our best. We did our due diligence through fundraising, building community and business support, hosting information tables, canvassing, texting, phone banking, mailers, and a great social media campaign, and much more. Although we made every effort with the resources we had, our Cave Creek Schools community voted against the override.
It is heartbreaking to hear the pain, sorrow, and stress that this loss has caused throughout our schools and our community. The dedicated teachers and staff do not feel valued for their education and experience, let alone their commitment to our community. District employees and parents are worried about tomorrow because none of us truly understand the impact of this loss. We must remember that public education is the foundation to our democracy. It is free for all, does not discriminate based on race, gender, ability, sexuality, income, religion, or status. Public education allows a wider perspective by expanding beyond a child's inner circle and builds empathy in our future leaders.
By not passing the override, we have failed our teachers and staff, our students, and our community. The question is, who failed? The voters in our district who voted no. To them I say, educate yourself on the facts, on how Arizona underfunds schools and forces districts to ask their communities to help through overrides and bonds. And how important public education is in creating a great community. The other failure from self-proclaimed savants and keyboard warriors on social media who spun lies about our teachers and curriculum and have no vested interest or concern for our school district and community. To them I say, look in the mirror, find your self-worth. Do not find self-worth by defaming others. Our school board needs to be better. Having our teachers being paid in the bottom 15% in the state and having competing school districts pay up to $10,000 more for a teacher per year is a failure. Underfunded districts do not have resources to retain veteran teachers or attract the best and brightest teachers. There are severe community consequences that will develop due to not passing the override. They may include school closing, increased classroom sizes, lower test scores for students, fewer curriculum offers such as arts, physical education, STEM, and foreign language classes, fewer support services for students and families in need, lower high school graduation rates, increased dropout rates, increased crime rates, and lower property values. These are realities when communities do not fund public education. To the board members, including the newly elected, you were elected to be on this board, not for self-gratification or recognition, but for the betterment of our students and community. We need to find a solution for our teachers and staff to have competitive pay. There is a national teacher shortage, limited pool of quality teachers. Competition is tight, especially when neighboring districts pass their overrides and bonds. For the amount that work in the education expected of our teachers, our current pay range is unacceptable.
We have heard reckless rumors about the district's misuse of funds and such. It will be the responsibility of this governing board, as well as the future elected, to take ownership and squash such false and irresponsible rumors. It is time for you to be leaders and step up for the community that elected you to protect our public schools. You all voted yes for this override, and some stood by their vote and volunteered with Action for Students to pass the override, and thank you for your time. Where were the rest of you? You are nonpartisan elected officials in a servant role to improve this community, not to build divide or damage it. We need you to be vocal about the realities of our underfunded school district. We need you to raise your voices and educate our community on how to right this ship. We are well aware that the only way we will ever have a healthy, realistic budget is to pass an override and, frankly, a bond as well.
Know that Action for Students is sticking around and will continue to fight for our district, employees, students, and our community. We will hold board members accountable for their roles and responsibilities to this community and push back when needed. Failing to pass the override was disheartening for many because the facts were on our side. Our staff and teachers need us. So Action for Students work is not done, and through education, advocacy, and community action, we will succeed. Everybody is welcome at our table to make this happen. Please join us. We're actually going to have a little meeting at Harold's to thank the people for all the hard work if someone wants to come by. And tomorrow, yes, at 4 to 6. But we want to thank you all and all the hard work that all the people that donated their time did for this most important cause in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Number 3, presentations, information reports. 3.1, November Students of the Month. So, students, you're getting a first-hand lesson in local government. You're watching it right now. So we've had students selected from every school, and we're going to acknowledge them in a moment. So kids, before you come up, I'm going to read a statement directed to you. The mission of the Cave Creek Unified School District is to provide an innovative, high-quality learning experience for all students by facilitating strategies to develop curious, resilient, critical thinking problem solvers. Students will be empowered to make a difference while inspiring excellence in our families, community, and the world. In Cave Creek Unified, we believe that every learner is unique and deserves the power to shape a personal path towards success. Abraham Lincoln once said, "I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep on doing so until the end." We know that these students being recognized here tonight exhibit great character, do their very best, and inspire excellence through their effort, achievement, and service to others. These students receive this recognition and nomination from their individual teacher or teachers and principals at their own school, and we recognize them here tonight. They are the best of the best, and the reason that each one of us serves on the school board. Truly, they inspire excellence. So what we're going to do, kids, we're going to step down. The board's going to come down, and your name will be called, and as we call your name, you'll come up individually. Okay. The first student, Lindley Sullen or Seelan. Is it a long E or short E? Celine. Oh, I was way off. Lindley Celine from Black Mountain Elementary School. Griffin Davies from Lone Mountain Elementary School. I know, that's just what I said too. The next student, Olive Schmidt from Horseshoe Trails Elementary School. Next student, Zaina Paloka, Desert Sun Academy. The next student, Kinsley Becker from Desert Sun Academy.
She wants to put her arm around me.
Next student, Owen Green, Desert Willow Elementary School.
Owen has a great handshake, too. You just turn around this way and hold up your certificates. We'll get a picture.
Next student, Johnny Sokol from Sonora Trails Middle School. And the last student, Howdy Hawkins from Cactus Shadows High School.
Love the slippers.
Congratulations. Thank you. So we're going to get a group picture, grown-ups, and then you can take more pictures if you like, and we'll take a break. So we'll take a little break and let y'all get up if you'd like, or you are welcome to remain.
Come on over, there's room for both.
They're so cute. I wonder if they were nervous or. How are you doing? That's a lot going on for you. It's not special. Well, that's good. That's good. That's good to see you. That's the way it is, Mom. You too. Okay, we about ready? Here we go. Item 3.2, Carefree Cares Excellence Awards, presented by Dr. Court Monroe, Mayor Peterson isn't here, is he? Vice Mayor John Crane, and Councilmember Croyer.
President Hatcher, members of the board, we enjoy this great recognition program with the town of Carefree. We're so grateful for their support. So I'm going to step down onto the floor with Vice Mayor Crane, soon to be Mayor Crane here in a matter of days, and with Board Member Croyer, who are great supporters of our school district, and we're going to recognize some teachers. So teachers, come on up and get your picture when your name is read, and then principals, if you could come up and be in the picture with your teacher as well, that'd be great.
So first, I'd just like to just take a moment, President Hatcher and board members, thank you for the opportunity to come before you today. The Carefree Cares program is one of the most enjoyable things that Mayor Les Peterson instituted on his watch. So it brings me great satisfaction to come here today and share these awards with you. At our October 25th council meeting, we had the teachers there. We acknowledged them, we read their bios, and it's just a great program. And to come back today and honor them and acknowledge them in front of the board, their peers, the parents, and the kids is just icing on the cake. So thank you for the opportunity. And what we'd like to do now is just call each one up individually. We have a gift card for them, and that would be great.
So first we have Jordan Blonder from Lone Mountain Elementary School. I understand the next teacher is not here tonight, Megan Brewster from Horseshoe Trails Elementary. We'll make sure she gets her gift card. Lisa Fisno from Desert Sun Academy. Are you here? No? Okay. I think from now on you have to be here or I get to take the gift cards. Yeah. Don Larson, Sonoran Trails Elementary. Jessica Levine from Black Mountain Elementary. Are you here? Christina Pancoast. And lastly, Amanda Seaman from Cactus Shadows. Thanks to all the teachers. We're so proud to have you in our district.
Thank you. Item 3.3, override election results and financial report, presented by Ms. Marcy Rodriguez.
Thank you. Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board. So this evening, I just want to share a little bit of information.
It's a rowdy departure.
We, as we had mentioned earlier, and it's been mentioned several times in this meeting this evening, we had an override election. And I've just checked, the numbers have just been updated. And we had the largest turnout of any district in Maricopa County. We had almost 83% turnout in our voters, which is incredible. We have a district that exercises their right to vote, and that's very admirable. The unfortunately, though, the vote was no for the district. There were a total of 42,000 votes, actually 47,000 votes cast, and 22,176 were no, and 15,894 were yes. So these aren't the final numbers. They haven't certified them yet. I think tonight they said was going to be one of the last drops, so I don't think the numbers are going to change much from what they are now. So unfortunately, it looks like the override was not a success. And I do want to also take a moment to thank the people that are in this room who gave up time away from their families, walked, knocked doors, sat out in front of stores. Dr. Monroe and I probably had over 50 appearances that we made, speaking to all different types of community members, anybody who would have us come. So it's very sad for me. I've come to love this district since I've been here. And so it's very unfortunate. But we will keep on. We will keep up the good fight. We will do what we have done to take care of our kids because they're why we're here. And then another thing I wanted to share with all of you, you've probably heard about the AEL. It's been in the news quite a bit. Aggregate spending limit. That is a constitutional amendment that says We cannot spend over a certain amount for our schools. So there's a limitation to that, and there's this calculation that's done. Again, another constitutional law that was put in place in 1980, which, we know there are a lot of things that have changed since then. The legislature has talked about maybe going in special session to override that like they did last year. We're hopeful for that. If they don't by March 1st, then what it will mean is $1.3 billion out of public schools in Arizona. Now, that is public district schools. That doesn't include charter schools. Doesn't include cutting vouchers, but it includes the public schools. Again, another just way that the state of Arizona they need to do away with this limit, or they need to modify it in some way. Every year we look at the catastrophic cuts that could happen to schools. To this district, it would mean $6.8 million. That's a lot. That would equate to the last 3 operating months of the district, so we would essentially have to shut school down in April and furlough everyone in order to make up that 6.8. Now, we know that's not realistic. So Dr. Monroe, the cabinet, and I have talked about what some possible options are that we could, things that we could cut back, things that we could do to help with that 6.8. We're hoping it doesn't come to that, but I just wanted to let you know as a board, the community know. If you have a relationship with the legislature, or you know someone that might have some influence, please contact them and let them know that this is something that we would like them to, again, overturn, so that we don't have to endure any of these cuts.
But when you say there are things that you can do or things that you might be looking at doing, you're not talking about making up a $6.8 million deficit, though, are you? I mean, that's not possible.
It's not possible in that short amount of time. So what we would have to do is ask the state to carry over that budget deficit to next year, and then allow us to take that deficit away, in the next coming years. I believe that I have a relationship with the people in school finance, and that there is ability to get approval to spread that over the next 3 years. Now, I will guarantee you, we will not be the only district having that conversation. So, we will just have to overspend the budget. I think we can cut maybe, $1 million or so in that short of period of time, but we will be having to go into the next year in a budget deficit.
Again, it's important to point out that this is money that the school districts have been given, that they already have in their bankrolls, in their possession. They just won't be allowed to spend it.
We currently have the authority in our budget and the legislative approved budget to spend this money.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Ms. Rodriguez, what's that deadline that the state has to approve that AEL extension? Is it March?
That is March 1st.
March 1st, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've discussed is, and what I've discussed with other superintendents from around the state is, as Marcy mentioned, potential school closures for the last quarter in order for schools to be able to adhere to the AEL if it's not overturned. Interestingly enough, just a little side note for the board in some of these conversations, there are school districts, listen to this, there are school districts that have contingency and savings and overrides passed where they think that they could make it and stay open through the rest of the year. Meanwhile, the Cave Creeks of the world would potentially have to close our schools. So again, a lot of unintended consequences. Hopefully it doesn't come to fruition. And we've really been laser focused on the elections and our override, but the AEL, this aggregate expenditure limit, is still out there, just kind of floating out there with that March 1st deadline.
And it's always something. I mean, we're always chasing money in this district, pretty much always. So, like I said earlier, I've said it all along, you said it just a minute ago. The root problem is the legislature. And that's what needs to change, but they're not going to change if we let off. We have to be persistent with that legislature.
We had to wait for the state last spring to approve that AEL spending, didn't we?
Yes, Member Brown, that is correct.
Yeah.
It was pretty close. It was February.
Yeah.
It was pretty close to March 1st, maybe the week before. And President Hatcher, just to let you guys know, I sent a few emails today congratulating some of our elected officials. Some of them I know, with the hopes of building a relationship so we can continue to advocate and lobby for these kind of things for Cave Creek.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. You have anything else you wanted to add, Ms. Rodriguez?
No, thank you, Madam President.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, number 4, action consent. Is there a motion to approve action consent as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve action consent as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Number 4, action consent is approved as presented. So we'll look at the items that were pulled. First item was 4.12. 4.12 is attendance and continuing education incentives for ECS employees, presented by Dr. Patty Jensen.
Yes, thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board. Administration would move that the governing board approve the grant-funded attendance and continuing education incentives for ECS employees as listed in order to recruit and retain highly qualified workers in our ECS programs.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, questions, discussion?
The only reason I pulled this is, could you give a real brief explanation on how this little chart works?
Yes, Member Busby. So without going into all of the background, it's listed up there. So if an employee works 20 days in a month, in 2 pay periods, which would be 1 month, they would receive $750 on top of their their pay rate, whatever their pay rate may be. And this is only for ECS employees. So that's Kids Club, preschool, and ECS enrichment. If they work, let's say, 16 of the days, they would get $500. On down to 5 days, they'd get $150 on top of it. So a scenario perhaps would be a teen aide from Cactus Shadows who wants to make a little extra money. We have several of them in our ECS program right now. They go and they work at our Kids Club programs at the elementary schools, and most of them do about as many days as they can. And let's say that's in the 12 days that they can do in a month. And so they would get $350 on top of their $14 an hour, whatever they're getting.
And it's grant funded?
It's 100% grant funded, and it will disappear.
Okay.
Whatever we don't use. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Member Busby, that's some of our most vital work, and it's a service to our parents. At times, our preschool teachers, our ECS are sometimes easily forgotten, if you will, but if you spend time with them, if you know their passion. So I really appreciate Dr. Jensen, ECS, Elaine, and Jim, and their vision to help keep really good people in front of our kids for this year, and maybe potentially this is a grant opportunity moving forward. But thank you, Dr. Jensen, for your work on this.
Are there additional comments? Okay, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 4.12 as presented. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, the motion carries. Item 4.12 is approved as presented. The next one that we pulled was 4.13, and that is one-to-one technology program student service handbook presented by Ms. Marcy Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of the board. The one-to-one technology program student handbook includes an optional fee of $30 for device protection, which is why we are bringing this to the board this evening for that approval of that fee. It also references governing board policy IJNDB-R regarding the district's electronic information services use policy. So it's moved that the governing board approve the one-to-one technology program student device handbook as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Discussion, questions?
I asked to have this pulled out. I just have three, I hope, simple questions. If I read the handbook correctly, we're going to issue Chromebooks to all the high school and all the middle school students, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So that's about 2,300 students, give or take a few.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Who is monitoring when they issue out the Chromebooks, when they'll return them in? Is that coming through our IT program or from school sites or?
Well, I would like to ask Ms. Celsi to come up and speak. She's been working very intricately with our high school and our middle school to establish the deployment plan. So, Ms. Celsi, could you please come to the podium? Thank you.
Good evening, President Hatcher and members of the board. I would like to answer any questions you have.
Okay, is your department the one that's going to monitor the issuing and returning of those Chromebooks at the end of the year?
Yes, so we are working in a concert effort with both the high school and the middle school. At the high school, it will be our IT support as well as members of my team here at District Office Dispatch to give extra support in concert with our bookstore manager. At the middle school, it will also be working in conjunction with the media center tech in order to maintain the checking in and checking out process and consistency in that. At the conclusion of the year, when we collect them back, it will be an all hands on deck approach from my team.
Okay, second question, knowing that the Chromebooks are for our state assessment testing, are we going to require the students to bring them all back in so we can make sure they're all up and running 100% before we roll into that state assessment window?
So that's the beauty of the Chromebooks. Once we push it out from the Google Admin Console, any updates are instantaneous as soon as they hit our environment. I've already had conversations with Principal Barella and Principal Sereno about how we're going to ensure that they are on campus and ready to go for state testing days, and they have plans in place for that.
Okay, I just didn't want to roll into the morning of the first test and
Understood.
Somebody's Chromebook's ill.
Yep.
And then my other question, and this is something that we've talked about prior to COVID, if we have 2,300 Chromebooks being used, I know not all at once, but during the course of the day, are we prepared on our side for the bandwidth and the energy needs to make sure all those Chromebooks are able to do whatever they need to do?
That is a beautiful question. We are very close to being completely prepared. In fact, work is going on as we speak at the high school and the middle school to ensure that that will not be an issue for any of our students.
Because we've had that come up before in the past, and we're told we were ahead of the curve, and then we kind of got hit by the bus. So.
And if I may, Member Brown, to answer your question about the infrastructure and will there be enough wireless access points and structure in place to be able to handle the volume that we hope is going to hit with all of the students and teachers using their devices. We've used E-rate money to upgrade that technology on our campuses to make sure that it is ready for these devices.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. What's the benefit of sending these Chromebooks home with all of the students?
So in addition to giving them access to the device that they're going to be working with for the assessments and having the fluidity and the comfort level there, it's also going to add that extra layer of consistency that all of our students have equal access to whatever technology is being pushed out through their teachers, whether they're all leveraging a Google Classroom or another platform, to ensure that every student has the same access to the work that's being given, essentially.
So this will increase learning and achievement?
That is my hope.
Yeah, Member Busby and members of the board, let me tell you, so my two youngest daughters at their high schools, when they became a freshman, they got a laptop, they got a Chromebook. And when I'd see them doing homework, they were doing it on the Chromebook. They weren't writing paper to pen. You know, it's 2022, and so their keyboarding skills become essential. When the summer came, they would turn it in, it'd be re-imaged, and then they would be reissued at the beginning of the year. It was very systematic. And I'd like to say that my daughters, thrived under that. So, Member Busby, to answer your question, our hope is certainly, that's what we hope. But I think it's a very exciting kind of Star Trek future universe that we're finally catching up to, that every student is going to have a Chromebook at the middle school and the high school. And then our vision, we'll have to be creative, is to go down into the elementary school as well, to really prepare the kids for the world that's waiting for them right now. And so our hope and our plan is, that achievement continues to go up. We don't want to just do it because it's a flash in the pan or it's a cool thing, but this is the world that our kids are entering into. So I appreciate the leadership of Mrs. Selsey. Thank you, Erica, Mrs. Scott, Mrs. Rodriguez, your team. There's been a lot of work. We've had these Chromebooks for a few months, but the mistake that you make is when you just roll it out and hand someone without training and infrastructure and all the things you guys are asking about. So here we are to Thanksgiving, and we're finally getting ready for the deployment. And I'm really proud of the efforts. I think it's going to be a very exciting day for our middle school and high schoolers to have this at their fingertips.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe.
I do want to praise Ms. Selsey. As a parent, I got to sit in on one of the overview workshop, whatever you'd like to call it, and I did it via Zoom. And it was very informational for parents in regards to having these school-issued Chromebooks. Probably my favorite thing is the safety that's put behind the scenes. They can only log in through their school ID, so they're not logging into something else and accessing other items because it's all on the same network. So I really appreciate the background of that. And I mean, now you've got some kids that like to do work on their phone, they're bringing their own device. And so the management of that, I'm sure, is very difficult. And this seems like it's going to streamline the safety side of it. So thank you.
Ma'am. Thank you, Member Walker.
This may not be a question to you, it may be more toward Mrs. Rodriguez. On page 6, we've got the replacement costs with or without the protection plan. Is that the replacement cost as of today? Should we up that a little bit for increase of cost next spring when some of these Chromebooks come back beat up?
Well, we did just look this information up in October, so it is recent as of October. Obviously, with inflation, we could see a change to those, but the pricing is pretty consistent, and that's looking at new pieces to repair, not refurbished. We want to make sure we get longevity out of these devices, and that is also part of the reason why we intend to collect them back at the end of the year to ensure that they are reimaged, they are clean, they are prepared to be rolled back out to our students so we can see the longest possible life out of them.
I know in action consent, we just approved the disposals, and in that there was quite a bit of technology. The Chromebooks that were listed there, were they the ones from 4 or 5 years ago? How old were those?
They definitely predate me, and I can say with 100% certainty they were no longer accepting OS updates, so it becomes almost like a glorified paperweight at that point. It's kind of just more meant for internet browsing, and even some of those were not getting to that point anymore. They were struggling to even power on or hold a charge, so the majority of them were quite obsolete.
And do we work with a recycler? Most of that equipment, being that there's heavy minerals and whatnot, the laptops and all that, the iPads,
Yes, sir.
excuse me, so that's all disposed of correctly.
Yes, sir.
Do we make any money on that?
A bit. This will be my first experience with our vendor that has been used in the past, so I can't speak to how much we will see, but hopefully it'll be something to help the continuation of the program as well.
Put your thumb on the scale. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I will add one more thing. When I've been a part of these deployments in the past, I would have this vision of hundreds of laptops coming back damaged. Surprisingly enough, the students take very good care of them. And I know, I didn't ever get the insurance from my girls, but they got the fear of God speech from mom and dad. But honestly, and Mrs. Selsey may be able to corroborate this, there was a handful of laptops that maybe someone left a backpack on top of their car or on the bumper, like just freak accidents. But my daughter wasn't coming into the house throwing her backpack on the ground anymore. And so I think we'll be pleasantly surprised by how responsible our kids will be with the Chromebook. They take pride in it. They want to get the same one back the next year. So I think they'll do a good job at taking care of them.
I agree.
Thank you.
Ms. Scott, do we know our testing window in the spring? Have we got those dates or that?
We do. It's in April. I can pull it up here. Give me 1 second. It's on our admin dashboard.
And Member Brown, just to speak to that, it is in April, but we also use them for benchmarking and for what we call mimic tests. And so the goal is that everything's ready up in the elementaries as well by end of January, early February, so that we can test the infrastructure and make sure that it can handle all of our students on Chromebooks at the same time.
Found it. That's, I think, the fastest I've been on here. So ASA grades 8 through 8, the windows April 3rd through April 28th, with the writing has to be completed by April 14th. AZ Sci, 5th, 8th, and 11th. The window is March 20th to April 14th. ACT Aspire for the 9th graders is April 18th. ACT for the 11th graders is April 4th.
Wow, it's a busy month.
One of the things that kind of gets discounted with devices is with the students having these devices, we're able to increase their comfortability, if you will, on the device. Now, don't get me wrong, our kids are way more comfortable with technology than we are, right? My daughter's my own help desk, right? She just takes my phone and does stuff with it. But, when we were in school, they were testing skills, like they would tell you, put your finger on the answer and turn back a page and checking what you were reading. Well, listen, that has to translate to online testing, and so these young kids and these high schoolers, they're doing all these little tricks that we learned with paper and pencil. And so our middle schoolers and high schoolers, their comfortability is going to go way up, especially when they're taking their college assessments, ACT, just by, like I said, back in the day, we turned back a page. So they have to figure out how they do it online. And so as Member Busby asked, I'm very optimistic that as we do these assessments and our students' comfortability goes up, that we'll see our scores increase, not only for our high schoolers, but our younger kids. It's like handing a cell phone to a baby. After a very short time, not the baby, but the toddler is navigating the cell phone. That is not something that we ever did. And so those are some of the fringe benefits that come from every teenager, every adolescent having a laptop at their fingertips in our district.
And if I may, College Board is also sending us information that advanced placement tests are all moving to online testing. So we're transitioning within the next year or so. Those will be transitioning completely over to online, which again is preparing our students for what to look for within the community college. I just recently had a meeting with PVCC with their academics services, and all of their online testing has now changed completely online. There's no paper or pencil for any of it.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 4.13 as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Item 4.13 is approved as presented. Item 5, old business, there is none. 6, new business, there is none. 7, future agenda items, there are none. 8, upcoming calendar events presented by Dr. Court Monroe.
President Hatcher, members of the board, Thanksgiving break is next week. We wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. December 22nd to January the 4th, we'll have our winter break. Our district office will reopen on January the 3rd, and school will resume on January the 5th. So happy holidays.
Thank you. Item 9, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.